economy, cities become more prosperous, more economically diverse. So, the most livable city. If Ottawa in 2036 wants to be the most livable city, it has to take culture seriously. Not as a destination, not as something, on the fringes of town when there's some money left or we can do something nice with it, but very much into the core of what the city can be. This morning we worked at least a little bit on how the Ottawa Art Gallery can be that, and it's going to be that, but it needs a wider and more broader support. Because I think if we work together in that sense, if all the institutions come together and if they really contribute, they can help make the city smarter. And with smarter, I said, I mean more dynamic, more inclusive, greener, more sustainable, responsible, entrepreneurial, all these things we have done. And basically, because images work better than text, I think if we think about culture in Ottawa in 2036, we probably need it to be a bit less like an ice cream museum and a bit more like any of the other museums. Oh, I should tingle my ear when I'm almost done. Like some of the other museums we have seen. If you have questions about this, the panel is going to answer them, or you can write them on the little comment notes, and we'll try and answer them later on. Thank you.
Yes. Merci Jasper. That was fantastic. C'était vraiment un grand aperçu des possibilités de culture pour nos communautés, des possibilités de voir une environnement plus sensible de la réalité de nos voisins, mais aussi de la réalité de l'avenir. Et c'est vraiment une bonne force. Merci. Thank you so much, and thank you to you all. I'm very pleased to have this panel to help us kind of contextualize and localize and respond a bit to the provocation that Jasper's given us to think big and bold, to build on our Chair Victor Ray's call to action to the board, to use this strategic planning process of the Ottawa Art Gallery to think big, to engage dynamically, and to allow ourselves to iterate and evolve. Comme Alex a dit, ce serait un processus un petit peu itératif, ce serait un processus qui adopte les perspectives des autres et de nos communautés, et de voir la possibilité d'avoir une conception de la galerie d'art d'Ottawa un petit peu plus grand, mais aussi peut-être un petit peu différent. And so it's a real pleasure to have my panelists with me. So you're going to hear from them in a short response that will hopefully kind of respond to Jasper's provocation. So with us, and it's not in the order that they're sitting, so but we have Christopher Duncan, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Arts Center. We have Nicole Milne, who's the Executive Director of the Ottawa Arts Council. We have Marissa Galamet, who's an Ottawa-born visual artist and cultural advocate. We have Remco Volmer, who is the Managing Director of Art Engine. And we have Jose Neneve, who's an artist, curator, and policy analyst. As indicated, this strategic planning process is meant to be a rounded out set of perspectives. You just had one, but we were hoping to round it out with others, and you will also have the chance to be able to engage, and I'll say more about that just at the end. But maybe as a starting point for our panelists, I'd say, and you can feel free to disagree with me, but one of my thoughts is that the inspiration and foundation of Jasper's presentation seemed to be for art to take up space, to really kind of own itself, and to use that space to build community and connection. So I'm open as to who wants to kind of run through, and then I'll have a question individually for each of you. But what do you see as the most effective way for the arts to positively take up space in our communities?
Well, I mean, we all love ice cream, right? There's lactose intolerant ice cream now. But just to quickly, we were talking about culture, and the thing about the word culture, the concept of culture, is that it's informed by cultures, plural, And so I think that a really important way to respond to that is to acknowledge First Nation, settler, immigrant, third cultures that play a role in our community, and actually, address our community, our local community, by centering and grounding our institutions with local artists, local collectives, local curators, in order to nourish our local consumers of that information. And I think that, that's happened in food trends, where, our local honey is the best honey for us. It's the only thing that boosts our immunity in a really natural way. And I feel like that is something that we're starting to do really well here. I mean, certainly the OAG saw, Axneo said, a lot of really great local institutions are really taking care of business in that way, and I think it's the way.
I think some of the best examples, further to what you're saying, Rissa, is that all of these institutions are doing a remarkable job of going out into these communities and really listening and understanding what is a meaningful engagement for them. What is something that makes them feel as though this is an experience that they feel welcome in, and listening truly to what will make it actually something that is quite positive in community building.
I guess I would begin by making the observation that I think the Ottawa Art Gallery is a great example of taking space. When I think of this institution in its previous incarnation, I don't feel it took up space the way it does now. I think it has made the Ottawa museum culture much richer by being so visible, and by the use of architecture to show a welcoming place. And the architecture, those values that are reflected in the architecture, have also been embodied by the institution. When the institution makes a decision to be free and to have free admission, it strikes a posture vis-a-vis the community that's very welcoming. So I think it addresses some of the values you were talking about.
I've also been thinking a lot about the idea of commons, art as commons, and the activity of commoning the resources that are around. So to open the resources that are there, and again linking back to that idea of community. So examples even where we are, like the gallery being open from 9 to 9 feels like a form of commoning, of approaching the museum as a common resource that is accessible to at least a larger section of the community. And the other way around, like almost giving away space, like our colleagues here at SAW Gallery, with the club in particular, where they're not so much taking up space, but they're holding space for community activities to take over that space, and by doing so, creating a cultural commons more broadly in the city.
So I'd like to just echo what everyone had said and just add a couple things. So I think in terms of how we can use the arts to take up space, I think it's always important to think about co-creation of space and shared ownership of space, because these aren't spaces that are just made available to people. These are spaces that belong to people, right? There is that sense that this is for you. And I think that's something that really needs to be cultivated, because even if you have an institution, if historically people have felt marginalized from those institutions, they need to have a sense of ownership. They need to feel as though this space is actually made for me. And the way of doing that is actually giving some of that power away, right? So actually giving that space to those individuals, to those groups, so that they can make it into a space that feels inclusive. They need to be part and engaged in that process of co-creating that space.
Thanks, and I think some exceptionally powerful kind of notions in there about democratizing and opening up and also recognizing. I have questions for each of you, kind of wearing your respective hats, and then I'm going to ask But maybe also with you, Christopher, wearing the hat that you wear, how do national cultural institutions need to evolve to meet the changing needs in our communities?
Thank you very much, Mark, for that question. And I guess I wanted to begin by saying the most exciting part for me in your presentation, Jasper, was not the ice cream, but it was the idea that we have to, if we are going to be champions of culture, which I think a lot of us feel, we do have to counter the idea that culture and artistic expression is something at the margins of our community and our economy, which is something you touched on, which really which I resonated. And I guess I would say I see the questions in the topic today from the perspective of someone in the performing arts. And I have certainly encountered in my time at the National Arts Centre, particularly since I've been nominated, since I came into the job of president, is that there is a common misunderstanding amongst policymakers and leaders that the performing arts are a source of, en français, divertissement, and entertainment. And I have been speaking to those leaders when I have the opportunity, and policymakers, about the idea of story and how important story is in culture. And since the beginning of humanity, we've had story, and we've used story to share our experiences, to learn from each other, etc. And story is, in effect, really, when you think about the performing arts, story is underpinning most of the performing arts, except for perhaps the most abstract examples of performing arts.